The use of rideshare apps such as Uber and Lyft can be incredibly useful, just being able to hitch a ride at the click of a button. But they can equally be as dangerous. Evil people using our trust to their advantage and pretending to be our rideshare drivers in order to lure in their victims and commit heinous attacks. Well, in today's case, we're going to be talking about exactly that. In 2019, college student Samantha Josephson got into a car believing that it was her Uber, but little did she know that the driver was not her Uber driver, but an evil predator looking to kill. This series is made for educational purposes. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode, or if you're new, hi, we talk about true crime on this channel, so make sure to hit subscribe if that sounds interesting to you. So we're just going to get right into today's case. Samantha Lee Josephson, also known as Sammy, was born on August 13th, 1997 in Princeton, New Jersey to her parents Seymour and Marcy Josephson. She also had an older sister named Sydney who was only 20 months older than her, and they were incredibly close. The Josephson family lived in Robbinsville, New Jersey, which is a small, tight-knit community. Growing up, Samantha was a very bubbly, happy and social child. However, she was described to be quite clumsy. With that being said, she grew up playing football/soccer and basketball, and she mainly played for the social aspects of the sports. She was said to have this incredibly infectious laugh that you couldn't help to just laugh with her. She was just a very joyful and infectious presence which everyone enjoyed being around. When it came time for her to go to college, she decided she wanted to attend the University of South Carolina, USC, and so she made the move to South Carolina. At the time of her murder, she was a senior in college, majoring in political science, and was due to graduate only 2 weeks later, and this was in the year of 2019. She had also gained a full scholarship to Drexel University, where she would be studying law, as well as a partial scholarship to Rutgers University, where she would be studying international law. Her path in life was very clear for her. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. She was going to become a lawyer and then go and work for the UN, which is incredibly impressive. Samantha was a member of the Alpha Gamma sorority at USC, and during her course, she had studied away in Madrid and Paris. At this time, she was also in a happy relationship with her boyfriend named Greg, and he was slightly older than her, as he had graduated just the year prior than when she was supposed to be graduating. The pair actually lived a good while away, as Greg had moved about 2.5 hours away, but this didn't seem to affect their relationship at all. The two remained very close, and they would speak to each other every single morning and every single night. So on the 29th of March 2019, Samantha just wasn't having the best day, so she called her boyfriend Greg to ask him to come down to her so he could spend the day with her and try and cheer her up. However, it was a Friday and he already had plans for that night. However, he was due to come and see her anyway for that weekend, so he reassured her and lets her go and have fun with her friends, but tells her to keep in contact with him. So with it being a Friday night, Samantha and her friends made plans to go out, which with them being college students wasn't uncommon, and they did this most weekends anyway. So that night they headed to the 5 Points area in Columbia, South Carolina, which was a very popular area for college students as it had a bunch of bars and restaurants and that type of thing. Even though Samantha had decided to go out with her friends that night, she still wasn't in the best of moods and spent most of her night on the phone talking to Greg. At some point during the night, Samantha and her friends somehow became separated, which does happen time to time, but a word of advice: when you're going out, do try and stay with people that you know and are safe with. Don't go wandering about by yourself just in case something does happen, even if it's not something sinister. but you could get lost or you could fall if you've been drinking, and well, you don't want that. So at 2 a.m, Samantha decides she's had enough and orders herself an Uber to take her back. At this time, she was at the Bird Dog bar, so she went outside and stood waiting for her Uber to arrive. And while she's waiting, she's on the phone with Greg, letting him know what is going on, and that she's waiting for her Uber to take her back home. And Greg and Samantha would use an app called Find My Friends so that they would know where each other were. So on CCTV, Samantha can be seen standing on the curb, just on her phone waiting, and from her demeanour, she doesn't seem to be intoxicated, she's just kind of ready to go home. At 2:12 a.m, a black Chevrolet Impala pulls into the bay next to where Samantha was standing, and assuming that this is her Uber, she opens the back door and gets into the back seat. The car can then be seen driving away at speed. The scary reality is that the car that Samantha Josephson had just gotten into was not her Uber, but the car of a monster. This car belonged to a man named Nathaniel Rowland. Nathaniel was 25 years old and lived in New Zion, which is a small community in Clarendon County, South Carolina. He studied at the East Clarendon Middle and High School, and he played basketball. He was described by his coach as being a great kid who came from a good and involved family. According to his Facebook profile, he had attended the South Carolina State University in 2017. However, it was later confirmed that he had made this up and that he never actually went there, which is just a weird thing to lie about. He had a few minor run-ins with the law, such as not wearing a seatbelt while driving. However, he also did have a felony from October of 2018, where he and a few friends committed a carjacking. So basically, they carjacked this woman, assaulted her, forced her to drive to an ATM and then stole money from her. Then they made her drive to her house, where they sold more things, before taking the stolen items to a pawn shop to try and sell. And from this, he was only charged with obtaining goods under false pretenses, not assault, not carjacking, which is just strange to me. I don't understand that. Going back to Samantha now, she had now ended up in Nathaniel Rowland's car after he had pretended to be her Uber. As I mentioned earlier, Greg and Samantha used the Find My Friends app, and Greg, knowing that Samantha was getting into an Uber, checked the app to keep an eye on her to make sure that she was safe, and almost instantly realised that she was travelling in the complete wrong direction as to where her accommodation was. So being a bit concerned, he tries to call Samantha multiple times to see what is going on, but she doesn't pick up. He then decides to send her multiple Snapchats, which again she doesn't open, and at this time he can see that she's getting further and further away from where she's meant to be going. She reaches the area of Shandon and then Rosewood. And then at 2:30 a.m, her location on the Find My Friends app suddenly is turned off. So Greg then decides to get in contact with Samantha's roommates, who told him that they hadn't heard from her, and weirdly he just assumed that maybe she'd arrived at the apartment and just left her phone in the Uber, and that's why her location was driving in the complete wrong direction, which that part kind of makes sense. However, the fact that her roommates were at the apartment building and hadn't seen or heard from her doesn't make any sense, but I'm not going to sit here and judge him. So Greg just decides to go to sleep and that he will just talk to Samantha in the morning. However, he would never hear from her again. The reality was that when Samantha had gotten into Nathaniel Rowland's car, he had put on the child locks, therefore locking Samantha in the car, not allowing her to leave. He then drives away, and at some point he attacks Samantha with a double-bladed knife, stabbing her over 120 times. And it's clear from her injuries that during the attack she was trying to protect herself, and we know this because she had a stab wound that went straight through her hand, which would have happened when she was kind of putting her hands up to protect herself. He had also stabbed her in the head with such force that the knife had broken into her skull and had hit her brain. He He also stabbed her in the carotid artery, which is responsible for sending blood to the brain, and a lot of her injuries were very close together, which indicates that he just kept stabbing her over and over again in the same areas in a very frenzied attack. Other injuries she sustained included stab wounds to her face, neck, shoulder, torso, lung, legs, her feet. She also had a broken hyoid bone, which is just a bone under the chin. It would have taken roughly 10 to 20 minutes for her to bleed out, which is an incredibly long and painful death. He then dragged her body into a field. The following day, all of Samantha's friends, roommates, and her boyfriend Greg were very panicked because they hadn't heard from her in a very long time. That morning, Samantha was actually due to go to her work at the Liberty Tap Room. However, she didn't end up showing up for her shift for obvious reasons. Greg had called her work to see if she had shown up for her shift, and they informed him that she hadn't, and to add to the panic, her location on the Find My Friends app was still inactive. So it was then that the police were called and Samantha Josephson was reported missing. Greg and some friends printed out photos of Samantha and started handing them out in hopes that somebody had seen her. They also went to the area where she had gone missing from and handed out pictures there. They also spoke to a bar owner who checked their CCTV footage. At 4 p.m, some local hunters had also called the police, informing them that they had found a body in a field, so officers were dispatched to investigate. So, her body was found in a field in New Zion 14 hours after she had been abducted. In an autopsy, it showed that she had died from multiple sharp force injuries, around 120. However, it could have been more, but the pathologist couldn't confirm this due to how many there were and how close together they were. The autopsy also showed that she had severe blood loss, which is expected after 120 stab wounds. However, the human body usually has about 5 litres of blood in it, but Samantha was found to have about 1.5 tablespoons, which is fucking crazy. 3 a.m. on March 30th, 2019, a police officer noticed a black Chevrolet Impala, and of course that was the description of the car that Samantha Josephson was last seen in, so he decides to pull this car over, and inside there's a couple. He begins questioning this couple, and all of a sudden the male just turns around and runs off, so the officer gives chase.
What's going on, sir? You got your license? You got your license on you? I'm also credit. Columbia Police Department K9. No license on you. Why not? Alright, man. Who's smoking the marijuana?
I had smoked some earlier, sir, when I was at home.
Alright. Alright, man, you're gonna have to step on out, man. Alright, here's the deal, man. I pulled your car over because it matches the suspect. Get your hand in your pocket. What are you, crazy? Get over here. Hey, get over here! Come on, run! Hey, I'm gonna release the dog! I can't, I was just gonna see if he'll stop.
And what we're watching?
It is.
And I know it's moving all around. Is that you?
That is.
Okay. Who is that you're handcuffing?
Nathaniel Roland.
The area that the couple were pulled over in was a residential area, and when the male had run off, the officer had called for backup, so they blocked all exits and the man was caught embarrassingly quickly. So they found that this man was of course Nathaniel Roland, and they had a look into his criminal history, so they would have seen about the carjacking. At 6 a.m. the following day, Samantha's father, Seymour, confirmed that the body in New Zion was that of Samantha through a Facebook post. So I'm going to quickly read you what he put. He wrote, quote, It is with tremendous sadness and of a broken heart that I post this. I will miss and love my baby girl for the rest of life. Samantha is no longer with us, but she will not be forgotten. It is extremely hard to write this and post it, but I love her with all my heart. I could continue to write about her, but it kills me. I sit here and cry while looking at the picture and write this. And at this point, the news that an arrest had been made came out, and when Nathaniel's family heard it, they were in complete denial. They refused to believe that he was capable of committing such a disgusting evil act. They believed this so much that they hired a defense attorney on his behalf and said that they would stand by him 100%. Nathaniel was maintaining his innocence and claimed that he was at a party at the time and that somehow someone had stolen his car and his keys and that they had returned his car to him. Now, I don't need to tell you this, but that is obviously a bunch of BS. Inside Nathaniel's car, they found some of Samantha's blood, her phone, a bottle of bleach, window cleaner, and some antibacterial wipes. So it's clear that this was the murder scene and that they had tried their very best to clean up the evidence. However, he obviously hadn't done a very good job of it. Hello, it's me again. So I'm just jumping in to say, I'm not too sure if Nathaniel's girlfriend had any involvement in the cleanup. I am sure that had they found evidence of that they would have brought that up in court and maybe she would have been arrested for that. So if anyone was wondering that, then there you go. I'm not too sure. So, but yeah. The police ended up searching in the trash behind Nathaniel's girlfriend's house, where they found more cleaning products and the double-bladed knife that had been used to kill Samantha, which, side note, is a very stupid place to hide a murder weapon because obviously the police are going to search that first. So, and as I'm sure you can guess, there was a lot of DNA evidence, specifically Samantha's blood on this knife, and as well there was blood on one of his socks and a bandana that he owned. And to put the nail in his coffin, her DNA was found underneath his fingernails, as well as both of their phones pinging in the exact same areas until he had turned Samantha's phone off. Nathaniel Rowland was charged with her murder, kidnapping and criminal possession of a weapon. On July 20th, 2021, his trial began. The prosecution brought forward 31 witnesses, including the hunters that had found her body, as well as the pawn shop owner who testified that he had indeed tried to sell Samantha's phone to him. Nathaniel's defense brought forward no witnesses, and he didn't even testify. Based on the plethora of evidence against him, I'm sure you can guess how it went for him. Video footage was shown in court and it showed that Nathaniel had been driving around the area for about 25 minutes, just circling around looking for a victim, and unfortunately that was Samantha. I think it was just a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The area that the Bird Dog Bar was in had a parking area in front of it, then a main road, and Nathaniel can be seen circling this area over and over again. And he probably noticed Samantha just standing there alone, and he realised that she was probably waiting for an Uber to pick her up, so this would have been a great opportunity for him to take her. And the thing is that a minute before she got into Nathaniel's car, she actually had attempted to get into the back of another car, which she must have thought was her Uber. And you can see that Nathaniel's car is only 2 cars behind this one, so he definitely would have seen this and further use this to his advantage. Later on in the night, he was caught on ATM CCTV footage attempting to use Samantha's debit card to take out money. He tried a total of 9 times before giving up, which, embarrassing. On July 27th, 2021, just 7 days after his trial began, Nathaniel Rowland was found guilty of kidnapping, criminal possession of a weapon, and most importantly, murder. And the jury had only deliberated for an hour, which is very short. The judge then sentenced Nathaniel to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Following Samantha's death, her family opened a foundation called What's My Name, which focuses on educating people on the dangers of rideshare apps and how to be safe when using them, as well as awarding scholarships to students. In June of 2019, the governor established Sammy's Law, which requires clearer and more in-depth identification for rideshare vehicles, such as having driver information clearly visible to the passengers, as well as dominant logos stating which company they work for, such as Uber or Lyft. In North Carolina, the Passenger Protection Act was established, which, alongside current laws, makes it a criminal offence to impersonate a rideshare driver, and if you were to assault a rideshare driver, it would be a misdemeanor crime. They also gave $50,000 to colleges to educate students about ride-sharing safety. Following her death, Samantha was awarded a posthumous political science degree in May of 2019, and this was given to her at what was supposed to be her graduation ceremony. So I'm super glad that a lot of action was taken and that something good has come out of Samantha's death. So the next time you are getting into an Uber or a taxi, think stop, ask, match and inform, or Sammy for sure. So I would love to hear your thoughts down below. If you've enjoyed this episode, give it a like and subscribe, or a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and I will see you next week with another episode. Okay, bye.